What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review for you. And honestly, a band that I feel like I probably should have been listening to a while ago because this is their third album. And maybe I have heard of this band before, but I'm not entirely sure if I listened to them. But now I definitely want to listen to more of them. We are going to go over the latest offering from Dawn of Ouroboros, Bioluminescence. This also comes out on the 7th of March on Prosthetic Records. This band formed in 2018 in Oakland, California. This, again, is their third album overall, and I'm at least for sure this is the first time I have listened to any of their albums. To describe this band, at least it is listed on the archives as progressive post-black metal / death metal. That's pretty accurate, I would say. Does feature current and former members of bands like Botanist, Monotheist, and Tomarum, which actually comes out with an album next month.
I've heard of this band. I've never jammed them until today, but I've definitely heard of them. Somehow I just skipped over it, and that was a dumb move, I'm going to be honest. I should have also been listening to this band for a very long time, as this band sounds like a whole lot of bands that I really love. And this is why I should have been listening to this band all along. Super proggy, very vast, lush atmosphere, absolutely beautiful melodies at all times, pretty much. Heavier than shit, but also, again, really beautiful. The drum work is insane. It's progressive metal done right, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, it definitely fits the descriptor, I would say. Like, you know, this is one of the few times I'll say, like, you know what? The archives were pretty spot on this one. The opening track, the title track, comes in with bright, shimmering, soaring melodies, like lush tremolos with synths behind them, but rapid-fire blasts, and then kind of just drops into this almost kind of like swingy, proggy groove with very ethereal, like light, lush melodies and these sweet, crooned vocals. Their vocalist, Chelsea, I should have wrote down her last name, but her first name is definitely Chelsea. She has an absolutely insane range, and it matches the range in terms of this album, in terms of what all they do. She has ferocious roars, like low death metal roars. You have like kind of a mid-range scream that I would say is like kind of her main wheelhouse. And she has this amazing, breathy, croony voice. It is very sultry. And in these softer, more ambient moments, my God, it sounds like every word she utters is just floating on like clouds.
Oh yeah, Slipping Burgundy is a good example of that. I actually compared her to a less raspy Norah Jones, kind of with an LA noir vibe.
She comes in that song like the ghost of Billie Holiday. It's pretty damn amazing.
Like a lounge singer at a seedy bar, and then out of nowhere it gets really dark and really chuggy, and that's kind of how this record flows. It kind of does whatever it wants to do at any given time. For as proggy as it is, it flows beautifully. They do whatever they want in this band. That's something I like about this band too. They just do whatever the fuck they want, and they execute it really well.
And honestly, everything about this is melodic. Even the heavier moments on here. When it comes down to its like most intense, like blasty moments, like you have a lot more of these like bright shimmering riffs that kind of carry on top of that. And she could be like screaming or growling on top of those, but the whole vibe is very light and airy. Even when it does get down to like some chuggier moments, it's not like a full-on like brutal heavy. Like it definitely sounds very intense, very driven. The drum work on this album, very just intricate, but also pummeling, like lots of stampeding double bass, lots of blast beats, but they choose their moments really well.
I might add one more descriptor to Metal Archive's list of what this band is. I think it would be classified as progressive technical post-black metal. There are a lot of very technical moments in here, but none of them I found to be noodly. Like you don't hear that kind of stuff. It's mostly just in the like crazy off-time transitions, and again the wild drum work.
A lot of the transitions are really driven by like the drum patterns. A lot of the guitars, again, very light and airy, like lots of layered melodies on here. And in the back, you also have like lush synths, like with the whole layering of all this stuff, plus her cleaner vocals too. It's almost just like this giant wave of, I don't know, heavy ambiance at times. But the whole thing, again, is very melody driven. Like there's only a few songs in here where I'd say they get kind of like flat out brutal with like more sinister, dark sounding riffs, like Fragile Tranquility and maybe a little bit on Static Repetition. But for the most part, this is kind of about like ethereal beauty, I would say.
Reminded me a lot of a band we just went over not long ago, Hangman's Chair, that both he and I were big fans of. It's melody like that. Like a lot of it plays on these, again, big, lush, synth-laden atmospheres. You do get a lot of melody out of the guitars, but they do rely heavily on that airy, kind of breathy atmosphere. Dueling Sunsets is a good example of that. Starts out with that kind of giant atmosphere. You do get like a growled stomp in there, but even that stomp is very simple.
Well, it takes this like kind of like heavier, chuggier riff. Like she kind of comes in like with like her gruff, like kind of like mid-range growls. And then it kind of shifts over to like a tribal pattern. And honestly, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Cranberries. Like, I mean, I loved her voice. She had an amazing voice. And it's kind of in that same sort of register. And it has this ascending sort of like build in terms of the melodies. And then it sinks back down to like the heavier, more gritty stuff. But again, even at its heaviest, which I would say it's very comparable to like, you know, Rivers of Nile, Black Crown Initiate, like that mid-period for the Contortionist.
Yeah.
Even some Devin Townsend, whether it's like later Strapping on Lead or just kind of like accelerated evolution from the Devin Townsend band. Kind of like that, like big, sweeping, huge melodies. In fact, this one actually has some of the coolest synths on the entire album. There's a whole proggy end to this with like these really cool synth patterns where it's not just there to like contribute to the ambiance, because believe me, this album has plenty of that. They're actually playing like a really cool melody that kind of jumps out to the forefront a bit. Poseidon's Hymn also kind of plays with that sort of dynamic. It comes in with these stampeding drums. Again, bright, shimmering riffs, but they're played very intensely. But you get into these like fluttering, clean guitars behind the melodies. And that kind of like transitions into, again, like more of these breathy vocals. There's some stuff in here that kind of reminded me of Radiohead at points. Especially the last track, their closing cool down, mournful ambience, which is exactly what that song is.
Yep.
Like it comes in with lush synths. You hear a couple of deep breaths like Chelsea had to sneeze. Maybe she did, who knows? But the whole song is very stripped down. Like this is still their lush sound, but you don't have the walls or guitars in here. It's all about the synths. You get like a piano in there, and like kind of like a pulsating rhythm, and her very breathy, drawn out vocals. It kind of reminded me of Pyramid Song, which is like one of my favorite Radiohead songs. It's still dark. It's still haunting, but compared to the rest of this is kind of the cool down. And I mean, again, it's like aptly titled. It feels absolutely melancholic as hell, and it is 100% ambient.
The calmest thing ever. That's actually what I wrote. Especially in comparison to the rest of the record, which is just downright bonkers. Like, it's the perfect cool down. Like, there's nothing going on besides big, sexy, breathy vocals.
I mean, it's still heavy in a sense. Like, it's still very lamenting and woeful. Like, it's pretty much like, I don't know, accepting you're drowning in the middle of the ocean and just kind of just sinking to the bottom.
I mean, if I'm ever in the middle of the ocean, it's exactly what'll happen.
You're going to get molested by jellyfish.
Oh, no.
And when it comes down to the post-black metal aspects in here, post-black metal, I'm still kind of hit or miss on. Like, I like certain bands, or at least certain albums by certain bands, but then other albums by certain bands irritate me. Like, seeing Deaf Heaven live was kind of unbearable. But because this band has a lot more progressive elements and transitions often, it keeps those moments fresh. And honestly, it keeps a lot of these moments fresh. Like, you have stuff where it does switch back to that more like, almost kind of like loungy vibe. You have like the, you know, more like just straightforward kind of like proggy, fun, off-time grooves in here. Heavier syncopation, and it's all mixed up well to the point where it doesn't overdo one element too much. And I have to say, when it does shift from bright and shimmering and, you know, melodic and beautiful to heavy, it can hit hard. Like, kind of catch you completely off guard. Like, you're kind of floating on a breeze through a good chunk of a song, and all of a sudden, boom, Chug City hits, and this thing just fucking body slams you down to the earth.
Happens in Slipping Burgundy, it happens in Dueling Sunsets, it happens a lot in Fragile Tranquility, which is just awesome. It kind of catches you off guard. Like, it's a big surprise, because with as calm and as peaceful as everything has been, to just kind of kick down the door and say, fuck you, we're here, is nuts.
And it only has like a few moments on here where I'd say it does get like flat out brutal. Like, again, even when it is heavier, it's still very melody centric. Like, a lot of the times when it does get more brutal, it's more or less just like a hefty chug underneath all of the brighter, like shimmering melodies, you know, synths, and again, lush vocal dynamics that can go pretty much anywhere. Even the lead work on here, which I think is really beautiful, Like, it doesn't scream necessarily prog lead work. It actually screams something that's more akin to, like, I would say, like, post-black metal. You get a lot of elongated notes. It draws out everything. It's very feel-based. Like, it does have its flashier moments, but for the most part, again, another thing that is completely centered on melody.
Except for the title track. I would openly compare that to like a Cynic lead or an Exvius lead. It's kind of jazz fusion-y. It almost sounds like he's playing a fretless guitar during that solo. There's only one other band I knew that ever did that. That was actually Exvius. But that was the only one where it had a more like kind of open lead like that. Like the rest of the leads are pretty simplistic in the sense that they are actually just kind of elongating a lead melody or elongating notes that coincide with the background synth melody. Like there's not like real leads except for in the first song, at least from what I found.
In terms of any negatives on here, I mean kind of hard pressed, and it is some nitpicking, I'll say. Towards the end of the album, it does kind of take a shift to at least slightly more heavy material. Like it notably gets a little bit darker around Static Repetition, Fragile Tranquility.
Yes.
And Fragile Tranquility, I really like. It is a standout song just because it is heavier, darker. The dissonant riffs don't sound as shimmering. They sound more just evil and sinister, but not like complete total black metal darkness. Like it's still got a lot of melody to it, but there is a notable tone shift. My issue with that song though is, while I love all these ambient moments where you get to hear just her absolutely beautiful crooning, they do feel a little shoehorned in that song because tonally I just don't think they quite fit as well. Because a lot of this is built on melody, and the melodic vocals always fit that way too. Even, again, in its most heavy moments, there's still a lot of melody to it. Here with these two songs, there's a little bit more on the heavy side, so the balance feels just a little bit off for the clean vocals. That is about it, though. And it is kind of a minor gripe. I love the flow of this album. The songs, I think, are beautiful. They're alluring. They really draw you in with the atmosphere and the composition. So, yeah, I mean, do you have any complaints? Probably not.
I actually don't. I don't have any complaints. For the first time in a very long time, I don't have any complaints. And for that reason, I'm going to give this record 4.5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I jammed this record earlier today at work, and I thought it was amazing, and I couldn't wait to come over here and show it to this guy. And this record's awesome. First of all, the drum work is insane. The production on this is perfect for what it is, especially with how much is going on. Like, the layering is perfect. The vocals sit great in the mix. Her croons play well with the atmosphere. Her mid-range cuts through everything perfectly. I love the constant melodies. I love all the lush atmosphere, and I like that the synths aren't overpowering. Like, they work very well in tandem with the guitars to just make this very big soundscape. I like that it's not overly heavy. I described it as heavy but not, but heavy but not, but heavy. It's kind of like that. I don't know. This speaks to me on a lot of levels as far as all the things I love about progressive music. If you're into bands like Rivers of Nile, Garia, Devin Townsend, Cynic, The Deftones, Strappy Young Lad, Radiohead, I mean, they're Black Crown Initiate, all bands I love, you're probably really going to dig this. But yeah, it's 4.5 stars, man. I got no complaints.
I'm going to go with a solid 4, and honestly, this could probably grow to a 4.5 the more I listen to it. Production is absolutely wonderful. Chelsea's vocal range,
yes,
unbelievably impressive. She just absolutely just dominates this album with like these cool vocal shifts in here. But I mean, musicality is amazing on here. This is such an emotionally charged album, and you can really feel it. Again, these bright, shimmering melodies, but the intensity of the blast beats, good chuggy sections, lavish prog intricacies, some cool jazzy sections. I mean, yeah, this album does a lot of cool stuff, but it never feels like it's too much. This is like oddly comforting music too. Like everything felt bright and warm in a way, but at the same time, it's still intense as hell. Again, if you're a big fan of, a lot of the bands you listed, I would say especially like Rivers of Nile, Garia, at points, like bands like Ghostbath, Hierarchy for the Sky, maybe Death Heaven, but better. And in terms of like the scope of this, yeah, I definitely get some Devin Townsend vibes.
Yep.
Yeah, if any of that sounds good to you, check this band out. I definitely want to check out their other albums now.
Yeah, me too.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also have memberships. They're only 99 cents, and our lone perk is doing a members-only live chat, which we'll be doing probably Wednesday, a little bit later at night. We will let you know what we're going to talk about. We might just wing it. Who knows? Those are usually fun too. I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there. But memberships are the main way to support the channel now. We also still have our store, thrallsmetal.com, with our t-shirts and hats. That is linked down below in the video description. And of course, if you would like to become a member of this channel, there's a join button down there for you to punch or headbutt or tickle or molest. I don't know. Listen, it won't tell. Just hit it.
Well, the join button may not tell. We can tell that you hit it, and that's really cool. If you don't hit it, that's fine too. We are just thankful that you are here and support this channel. It means the absolute world to us that you guys all interact as much as you do. It's really cool. Tons of content coming your way. Album reviews, discography rankings, states of metal, is it metal, is it not metal, Nick's never-ending collection updates, live streams, members-only live streams, discussion forums. We are all metal all the time. We do it for you guys. Thank you for being a part of this.
Yeah, you guys absolutely rule. Tons of content coming your way. So one more big thank you, because you guys are awesome, and we will catch you later.